My girlfriend demanded. If you loved me, you'd pay off my student loans. I replied I needed to think about it. She pressed me, saying it was a test of my love. I started to wonder. Then, a shocking social media post from her changed everything. I, 30, male, work as a software engineer in Austin, Texas. I've always been pretty good with money, saving up a decent nest egg, and paying off my own student loans years ago. My girlfriend, Sarah, and I had been together for 2 years. I loved her deeply, or so I thought. She was vibrant, funny, and ambitious, a freelance photographer with a real talent. The one major stress in her life was her student loan debt, a substantial amount from an out-of-state art school. She'd often bring it up, lamenting how it held her back. One evening, after a particularly nice dinner celebrating my recent promotion, she dropped the bomb. "Mark," she began, her voice soft but firm, "if you really loved me, you'd pay off my student loans." I was stunned into silence. I had helped her out with smaller things before, emergency car repairs, a few months of rent when she was between gigs, but this was a different league entirely. This was over $60,000. I stammered, "Sarah, that's a huge ask. I need to think about it." She immediately changed, her tone turning cold. "What is there to think about, Mark? You have the money. If you loved me, you wouldn't hesitate. This is a test, really. A test of how much you truly care about our future." The conversation spiraled. She accused me of being selfish, of not caring about her happiness. I tried to explain that it wasn't about love, but about financial responsibility, about the precedent it would set, about my own future goals. But she wouldn't hear it. She just kept repeating, "If you loved me, you would." We went to bed that night with an unspoken tension, a chasm opening between us. I spent the next few days in a daze. The test of love line kept replaying in my head. It felt manipulative, unfair. I truly loved her, but this felt like emotional blackmail. I was beginning to doubt everything. Update 1. The silence between us stretched for days. Sarah was giving me the cold shoulder, acting hurt and distant. Every time I tried to talk about it, she'd just sigh dramatically and say, "It's fine, Mark. Clearly, my financial freedom isn't a priority for you." The emotional manipulation was exhausting. I confided in my older sister, Emily, who lives in Dallas. She's always been my voice of reason. After listening patiently, she said, "Mark, your money isn't a measure of your love. This isn't how a healthy relationship works. There's a difference between supporting someone and enabling them, or worse, being exploited." Emily suggested I look deeper. She pointed out that Sarah had always been vague about the exact amount of her debt, and even vaguer about her payment plan. "Have you ever actually seen the loan statements?" she asked. I hadn't. I just took Sarah's word for it. That conversation planted a seed of doubt. I started to pay more attention. Little things. Sarah's struggling artist persona didn't quite match her expensive tastes. New designer bags, frequent spa visits, always ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. I just figured she was treating herself when she landed a good photography gig. But combined with the loan demand, it suddenly seemed off. Then came the social media post. Sarah was usually very active on Instagram, constantly posting perfectly curated shots of her life. I was scrolling through my feed one afternoon when I saw it, a picture of Sarah, beaming, standing in front of a sleek, brand new sports car. The caption read, "Finally picked up my dream ride, thanks to my amazing investor for believing in me and my vision. Far dream car fa boss babe new beginnings." My blood ran cold. Investor. Vision. There was no mention of me. And the car was definitely not something she could afford with her freelance photography income. Even if her loans were magically gone. I clicked on the comments. There were a few from her friends, congratulating her. One comment, however, jumped out at me. It was from a guy named Jack's Realtor. It simply said, "Congrats again, babe, looks even better in person. You deserve it." Babe, I didn't recognize the name. And the car, it was a Porsche, a very expensive Porsche. My heart started hammering. The investor and babe comments felt like a punch to the gut. The timing coming right after her test of love demand was too much of a coincidence. I had a sickening feeling that I was about to uncover a much deeper betrayal. Update 2. I didn't confront Sarah immediately. I was too stunned, too hurt, and too angry. I needed to know more about Jack's Realtor and this mysterious investor. I clicked on Jack's profile. He was a realtor in Houston, a few hours' drive from Austin. His profile was full of flashy photos, luxury cars, big houses, expensive vacations. And then I saw a picture of him and Sarah, taken about 3 months ago, at what looked like a resort. They were laughing, very close, and his arm was around her waist. The caption, celebrating new ventures and new beginnings with my favorite person.
So proud of you, babe.
My stomach twisted. 3 months ago. That was right around the time Sarah started getting vague about her loan payments, saying she was working on a big project that would help her. I started scrolling through Sarah's own old posts looking for any sign of this. Jax. Nothing. She had carefully curated her social media to show only our relationship. This was a deliberate cover-up. I then remembered something. Sarah had often gone to Houston for photography gigs. Over the past few months, sometimes for several days at a time. She always claimed they were big, important clients, and she needed to focus. I believed her, of course. I even offered to drive her once, but she always insisted on taking the bus, saying she needed the quiet time to prepare. I felt like the biggest fool in Texas. I went through our shared banking app. My recent promotion bonus, a significant amount, was sitting in my savings account. I had been saving it to potentially put a down payment on a house we would live in. I checked our joint checking account. All the money she had contributed recently was from photography gigs, which now took on a sinister new meaning. I decided to make my move. I waited until Sarah came home. She walked in, looking tired but happy. "Rough day, babe?" she asked, with a sweetness that now felt like poison. I just looked at her, then walked over to the coffee table and opened my laptop. I pulled up Jax's Instagram profile, with the picture of them together, and then her new Porsche post. "Tell me about your amazing investor, Sarah," I said, my voice cold and steady. Her face went white. The smile vanished. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. "Mark, I can explain," she stammered, her eyes darting around the room, desperate for an escape. "It's not what you think." But it was exactly what I thought. Update 3. Sarah's explanation was a tangled web of lies and half-truths. She claimed Jax was an old friend from art school, a wealthy acquaintance who was investing in her photography business. The Porsche was just a loaner from him, for promotional purposes. The "babe" comments were just a playful joke. The student loan demand was a desperate cry for help, an emotional outburst because she felt so much pressure from her debt. She cried, she begged, she swore on everything she held dear. But this time, her tears didn't move me. I had seen her mom's text messages in the last story I wrote. I had learned my lesson. I looked her in the eye. "Sarah," I said, "I have proof. My sister, Emily, runs a skip tracing service as a side business. She found an apartment lease in Houston, under your name, and Jax's. It started 3 months ago. You're not commuting for photography gigs. You're living a double life, and the car is registered in your name." The color drained from her face. She deflated, all the fight leaving her. Her eyes became vacant. She knew it was over. There was no more gaslighting, no more manipulation. The truth was out. She eventually confessed, a torrent of shame and twisted justification. Jax wasn't just an old friend. He was a wealthy older man she had met on a dating app. He had been showering her with gifts, including the Porsche, in exchange for her companionship. He had paid off a chunk of her student loans, but not all of them. The plan was to string me along, get me to pay off the rest, and then quietly phase me out of her life while she moved on to Jax and a life of luxury. The test of my love wasn't a test at all. It was a last-ditch effort to bleed me dry before her grand exit. She even admitted that my recent promotion and bonus had accelerated her timeline. I was just a convenient backup plan, a safety net she could fall back on if Jax ever got tired of her. I asked her to leave. I gave her 24 hours to pack her things and be out of my apartment. She tried to plead, to bargain. But I was done. There was nothing left to say. I just stared at her, an empty shell of the woman I thought I loved. Final update. The aftermath was painful but ultimately liberating. Sarah moved out, taking her designer bags, her photography equipment, and her lies with her. I changed the locks the moment she left. I deleted her from all my social media and blocked her number. There were no dramatic confrontations, no legal battles. She just vanished from my life, taking her duplicity with her. The initial shock gave way to a profound sense of sadness and then, slowly, anger. Anger at her betrayal, at her manipulation, at how easily she had used my love against me. But then, a sense of immense relief washed over me. I had dodged a massive bullet. Imagine if I had paid off her loans. Imagine if we had gotten married. My life would have been intertwined with a deceitful, opportunistic person, and I would have been left financially and emotionally devastated. I went to therapy to process the betrayal and rebuild my trust. My therapist helped me understand that it wasn't my fault. I was a kind, generous partner, and she exploited those qualities. I learned to recognize the subtle red flags I had ignored: the vagueness about money, the overly dramatic responses, the constant tests of my affection. I also learned to listen to my intuition more. That uneasy feeling when she demanded I pay her loans. It was my gut trying to warn me. My sister, Emily, was a rock through it all. She helped me see things clearly and reminded me of my own worth. I'm focusing on myself now. I've reconnected with old friends, started new hobbies, and I'm even planning a solo trip to clear my head. My savings account is intact, and my future is my own. I'm still single, but I'm not afraid of being alone anymore. I'd rather be alone than with someone who sees me as a bank account rather than a partner. Sarah might have thought she was playing me for a fool, but in the end, her demand for proof of love revealed her true colors, and that was the most valuable lesson I could have ever received. I'm free, and that's worth more than any sum of money.